ready to start?
Red light is on.
Perfect. All right, my name is Sean Van Diver. That's ShawnVanDiver. Van Diver is all one word. And I'm the president and founder of the AfghanEvac Coalition. I want to welcome everyone here today. It's been about a year since AfghanEvac started. We are a 501c nonprofit based here in San Diego, but leading the global effort to help relocate Afghans from all across Afghanistan to here in the U.S. and elsewhere around the world. We've had a lot of wins. We've relocated tens of thousands of folks in partnership with the State Department, the White House, the Department of Defense, and the Department of Homeland Security, and the more than 200 member organizations that we have. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Afghan Adjustment Act. We're going to talk a little bit about Operation Enduring Welcome, and then we'll hear some big announcements from our city council leadership here, and learn a little bit about what the impact is on Afghans here in the San Diego area, and we'll hear some new commitments, or some commitments to continue supporting Afghans from our state leadership. AfghanEvac is not a government agency. We're not a long-standing nonprofit. We're not a well-funded multinational organization. We're volunteers. We're veterans, we're frontline civilians, we're public servants, we're Afghans, we're Americans. We have a shared commitment to helping Afghan allies who've stood with Americans for 20 years through our longest war. We were established here in San Diego in 2021 as Kabul was falling, when my buddy Lucky texted me and said, "Brother, I'm stuck on this mountain in Irgun. I think I'm gonna die. We're running out of ammunition. Will you please grant my last wish and help my family get back to San Diego?" After the tears and the sobbing, we worked to try to get tickets for his family to get out, but the airport fell. My story was not unique. That story was repeated thousands of times all across this country. And we thought it pretty important that all the folks that were involved in this should talk. Today, we represent 200 organizations working closely with at all levels of government, and just last week, the White House announced the long-term plan to meet our commitment to allies, or to meet our commitment to Afghan allies. The plan is called Enduring Welcome. It makes some pretty significant changes that I'm happy to talk about in detail later. But the big things you need to know is that no longer will Afghans arrive here in a temporary status. They'll arrive with a durable, long-term status and a pathway to becoming full American citizens. Also, P1s and P2, United States Refugee Admissions Program referrals, the most vulnerable among them who are still in Afghanistan are now going to be eligible for relocation. The biggest thing that this does is that it takes away the time limit. September 30th was supposed to be the date that Operation Allies Welcome ended, and now there is no end date. Enduring Welcome will persist until the job is done. AfghanEvac is very proud to have worked with the White House to accomplish that, to accomplish a multi-year, end-to-end comprehensive plan, which is our #1 priority when we started. We're also here today to talk about the Afghan Adjustment Act. This bipartisan bill was introduced in both the House and the Senate earlier last month. And today, we're going to hear some big announcements from the city level. This bill would reduce backlogs in the asylum process. It would create more certainty for all the folks that are already here who are on a temporary status by giving them an adjustment of status to lawful permanent resident immigration status, which means they get their green card. A couple years after that, they can apply for U.S. citizenship. These folks have earned this. This Congress would be the very first Congress to not pass such an adjustment after following an evacuation. And we're so glad today that the city of San Diego and other cities around this country and counties around this country are stepping up and calling on Congress to pass this bill. With that, I would like to pass it over to Dr. Wahid Hadari from the Afghan Cultural Center to talk a little bit about his experience with this. Thank you so much.
Hello dear all, my name is Wahid Hadari and I'm the founder and the president of Afghan Community Culture Center. It is based in San Diego and it was established in 2020 in July. We are helping the newcomers here in San Diego and also in Afghan area. We have a couple of services for them. Today I want to talk about some of the issues of newcomers here in San Diego. As we all know, Afghans came to US in some categories like SIVs, refugees, undocumented SIDs, and also parolees. They all need medical government benefits, social security, and also employment authorization cards in order to find employment. So most of the parolees, when they were evacuated, most of them, they came to San Diego. So they were facing housing issues. There were housing crisis. They cannot find apartments. If they find apartments, so the prices are high, like for 2-bedroom apartments, they paid like $2,800 and something like this. In some other parts also, we have to talk about that. There were some other children, they were evacuated during this evacuation. So their families left behind in Afghanistan, and now they are in foster cares. They need better care, especially about their education, about the culture and religious matters. So because they're alone, separate from their families, and their families still live in Afghanistan, and they are hiding place to place because of the threats. In gender, they're all would need cultural integration. As you may know, the characteristics of Afghan community, majority of them are Muslims by religion, and Afghans by ethnicity. Afghans are mostly SIV immigrants in the United States, especially in San Diego. After the collapse, the previous government, most of the people who supported the US government were evacuated, and now they are safe and are living with their families in the US. So, as a summary of my speech, I would like to mention that many families who arrived to US who are SIVs, parolees, refugees, and undocumented immigrants, their families still live in Afghanistan, and they're hiding place to place because of the threats. And they are most eligible people. They have applied for SIVs, but their case is still under process, so it takes time. So they need urgent evacuation. And also, other subject I would like to bring it up as that many families who arrived to US who are SIVs, parolees, refugees, and undocumented immigrants need to be resettled. So the Afghan Status Adjustment Act, this is an important thing in order to be passed from the government, so they can be resettled in the US and they can get their permanent resident cards. So this is very important for them. As I said, many children were evacuated to US. They have left their families behind in Afghanistan, so they need their better care culturally and religiously, and their families need to be evacuated from Afghanistan. At the end, I would like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to finding out the Afghans' issues and providing the suggestions for it. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hadery. As you heard from Dr. Hadery, Afghans are not a homogenous group of folks. There's a lot of folks that are facing a lot of marginalized populations, vulnerable populations, the Hazara women, the LGBT community, all over Afghanistan. People are under great threat, and it's really important that we highlight that, and AfghanEvac prioritizes those folks. Next up, I'd really like to hear from, or we're going to hear from Assemblymember Chris Ward.
Great, thank you, Sean. I want to thank those from our Afghan and Muslim community here in San Diego that are doing the hard work on the ground. Councilmember Campillo for welcoming us here to City Hall. My name is Chris Ward. I'm the Assembly member for the 70th Assembly District, and we are here really to underscore that this is a partnership between all levels of government. While as a personal supporter of the Afghan Adjustment Act, I'm hopeful that Congress and our president will be able to move that forward in short order. We're mindful here just 1 year after the fall of Kabul and Afghanistan to the Taliban regime, that we have our work cut out, that we have individuals who have for upwards of 20 years placed their lives in harm's way, who deserve the support of for American housing and support for their families. And California is here really to lead on that way and to be able to do their part. Our longstanding values of inclusion and diversity have given thousands of refugees a place to call home, a place where they can feel safe and work their way towards a better life. Today, 1 year later, more than 2,000 Afghan refugees have resettled here as part of the Afghan Integration and Resettlement Services Project, or AIRS for short. Last year, the legislature approved a state budget that included $20 million to the California Department of Social Services for the CalNew program to assist Afghans in building a new life here in the United States. Additionally, the Federal Office of Refugee Resettlement appropriated $1 million to implement the Refugee School Impact Program to help Afghan youth transition into our public school system. This is important because adjusting to a new culture will always be challenging for obvious and many reasons, but California leadership will continue to support our refugees with empathy, understanding, patience, and investments in social services programs that make processes as seamless as possible. I am proud to be a part of a legislature and in partnership with our governor, who continues to welcome our new neighbors with open arms and for many years to come. And with that, I am looking forward to the city's announcement today, because of course San Diego is leading California in its ability to make sure that all refugees, and especially those who have given so much to American safety, are included as a part of the fabric of our society. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Assembly Member. California's commitment certainly means a lot to us, and I know it means a lot to Afghans. Next up, we have Alina June Nawabi from the Azizi Foundation.
I'd like to thank everyone that came in today. More than the people that attended here, I also like to thank our troops and the volunteers that made this happen. Without them, we could not have been here today. There have been so many people that have contacted me during the evacuation month, including my own father, who was stranded in Afghanistan during those hours. It was difficult because my father was a senior, like most of the Americans who were stranded in Afghanistan, was also seniors. They had no idea the country had fallen. Most of them were disconnected. They didn't have access to internet nor news outlets. So they didn't know the country had fallen apart, let alone did the airport fall apart too. So when we found out that my father was stranded, we immediately contacted our friend Sean and other volunteers to help out. Our troops really stepped in. They helped us out. And this is why the Adjustment Act is very important to a person like me, because it's not the first time we became refugees, even though we're American citizens. It's the second time we became refugees. We're looking for opportunities to establish ourselves here and contribute back to society. How can we contribute if we don't have the support we need from our Congress, as well as our local and county and state representatives? And I'm very grateful that I live in California, because Californians are very progressive on issues when it comes to human rights. We were there for those children that were separated at the borders, and now we're there for the people who have been separated from their families at the Afghan airport. I'm hoping with the stories that we share today and the relationships that we create, that we can highlight the importance of Adjustment Act, because it's not the first time we passed something like this. We did it with the Cuban Act, with the Iraqi Act, as well as the Vietnam Act. And we're hoping to do the same thing for the Afghans, because we want to be a part of a very progressive society, and we want to contribute as fast as we can. But we can't do it without their help, without your help. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alina. And finally, our final speaker will be Councilmember Raul Campillo.
Thank you very much, Sean, and thank you everyone for being here today, and assalamu alaikum to my Afghan brothers and sisters who are here as well. My name is Raul Campillo, and I am the San Diego City Council member for District 7. San Diego is home to the largest Afghan population in the region, with over 2,000 people, and my district, District 7, is home to the Afghan Community Islamic Center, a place of faith and worship for the Afghan people to find refuge and community. This is very personal to me and to my constituents. Congress needs to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act to ensure we do not take any steps backwards in serving those who put their lives on the line and serve the ideals of democracy. Many Afghans in San Diego are refugees, and along with thousands of their brothers and sisters across the United States, they are at risk of losing their place where they have begun to rebuild their lives. A place where they have started to build their homes and now are our neighbors, our brothers and sisters, our community members, and public servants. We must be clear that they were forced to leave their home, and now in the United States, we have a duty to support them. These folks were human rights advocates, political leaders, translators, soldiers, artists, leaders of their country. And some were just related to someone who heard the call for democracy and fought alongside our men and women in uniform for our American ideals. They supported America, they faced death if they didn't flee, and so now, for those who are in San Diego and across the country, we need to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act. They have started their lives over on square one, and we are here to help them. If Congress does not move to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act, our Afghan allies will remain in limbo, and this is an unacceptable reality for the America that we are in. And to my core, I believe that it is unacceptable to the roots of our country, including families like mine who are immigrants from other countries who are here. We need to not pull the ladder up behind us. We need to extend a hand down and pull them up with us. They came here to find a better life, and they did not cast the United States aside and join the other side because it was safe. They stood with us, so let's stand with them. So, we have leaders like Assemblymember Chris Ward. We have leaders like Sean Van Diver, public leaders. We have political leaders. We have volunteers who are all together with the AfghanEvac Coalition. This is what San Diego stands for. The efforts of AfghanEvac are critical and ensure that thousands of Afghan refugees who were displaced have the opportunity to pursue legal status here in the United States. AfghanEvac has been able to rebuild relationships and cooperation between U.S. government agencies that were starting to fray, and people like Sean Van Diver pulled them back together. And so this is not an easy feat. In fact, these are small miracles, and in fact some were major miracles. But it should not take a miracle to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act. As Alina Junnawabi said, we have done this before, and in fact we've done it many times before, with Nicaragua and Cuba, with Iraq, with the Indochina Migration and Refugee Act for all Southeast Asian countries after the Vietnam War. So there's no reason that we should sit idly by and not do the same for our Afghan allies and their family members who are currently in danger, currently have their safety at risk and their lives at risk. These Afghan men and women who were hired directly by our government as employees and contractors and their family members deserve a better way forward, an easier way forward, to make sure that they can have status in the United States and have a pathway to citizenship as well. So I call on the full City Council to approve a resolution brought forward by myself and Councilmember Marnie von Wilpert in support of the Afghan Adjustment Act that is before Congress right now. And we are showing that the City of San Diego supports the people of Afghanistan who stood up with America and who are here right now, and their family members who are waiting to come here, that have suffered so much, but have put so much on the line for us and our safety. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Sean, for all your hard work on this.
Thank you. All right, folks. I want to take a moment here to highlight how San Diego has shown up for this, for us and for Afghans. You heard today from the City of San Diego, we've got council members Marnie von Wilpert and Councilmember Raul Campillo who are bringing forth this resolution to direct, or to ask Congress to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act. What you haven't heard, or maybe you've recorded, is that civic infrastructure all over San Diego, from the County of San Diego, the Convention Center, and all over Balboa Park, has been lit by leaders across the spectrum. Leaders at the County of San Diego, like Joel Anderson and Nathan Fletcher and Nora Vargas, have been very supportive of Afghans in the region and of the Afghan Adjustment Act. Speaking of the Afghan Adjustment Act, one of the original co-sponsors, the original 9 co-sponsors in the House, is Congressman Scott Peters. 4 of the 5 representatives from right here in San Diego are co-sponsors of the Afghan Adjustment Act now. Rep. Sarah Jacobs, Rep. Juan Vargas, and Rep. Mike Levin have all signed on as co-sponsors. What we want to see is cities and counties all over the country and all over this region following suit, following and doing exactly what Council members Campillo and Von Wilbert are doing here today. And the state has led in incredible ways. This morning I got to tour a site, it's called the ACIP program. I can't remember what it stands for, but what it is an extension of the State Department's 90-day housing on demand program, which helps Afghans or anybody, any refugees when they get here, afford their housing. The state of California recognizes that housing is a bit of a disaster here, and has given a year-long program to help Afghans ensure that they're able to afford their rent and integrate into society. I am so proud today to be a San Diegan. We've seen a whole government approach from our region. You've heard about it today from leaders from all across the region. You've heard about the impact on Afghans directly from Afghans today, and about what it means to see San Diego stepping up. Folks from across this region, the San Diego region, have played a significant role in our mission to stand with our wartime allies. And that means something. It means something to those of us that are doing this work day in and day out. And I know it means something to Afghans all across this region and across the country and the world. So thank you all. With that, we're happy to take any questions for anybody up here. I'll triage and we'll go from there.
Sean, are you a veteran?
I am a veteran, Navy veteran, served 12 years.
Were you over in Afghanistan?
No, actually I was not over in Afghanistan, which is pretty, people often assume that I served in Afghanistan. No, what happened is I met my buddy Lucky at a press conference at City Hall downstairs when we were talking about the Muslim ban. And he made an impression on me. I was involved with No One Left Behind at the time. And I was helping Iraqi and Afghan SIVs resettle here in the region. And the way that we show up matters.
I'm sorry, SIVs stands for?
Special Immigrant Visas.
Thank you.
So these are folks that stood with us and we said, hey, if you work with us for a year, you can come and you can have a pathway to being an American. You can come be my neighbor.
And can you just do a top line for us on what the Afghan Adjustment Act is?
Sure. The Afghan Adjustment Act is a bipartisan, bicameral piece of legislation that provides for adjustment of status, establishes a task force led by the Secretary of State but comprised of all the relevant federal agencies to focus in on how we make sure that this doesn't happen again, this failure for wartime allies. And it expands the SIV program to include other categories such as Afghan Special Forces and others who stood with us but were not eligible for SIV currently.
Okay. Can you, the administration received a lot of criticism with how they handled the pullout of Afghanistan. And a lot of it came from folks like you, talking about, can't believe we're going to leave these people who did so much for us behind. Now we're a year out. It sounds like you think the administration has done what they need to be doing as opposed to how things got going initially.
Sure, so it's really easy to look back at August and say, man, these guys messed up. And it's true. However, when we look at the full picture of this, the full history, it's clear to see that on January 21st, 2021, when the Biden administration took office, the refugee system had been decimated. The SIV program hadn't been processing applications for 3 years. Resettlement agencies here in the US had all been decimated because they're funded per refugee that comes in. So what that means is all across the country, these resettlement agencies had lost all of their people and all of their funding. So certainly we wish that things had gone differently. We don't Monday morning quarterback at AfghanEvac, but what we do care about is that we've seen a whole of America approach to this, whether it's our volunteers, whether it's Afghans, whether it's veterans and frontline civilians all across the country, or the government workers who are doing this day in and day out and building that capacity and trying to do it right in a way that creates a durable status for these folks so that they don't get kicked out if policy changes next year or the year after or the year after. So yeah, we're really pleased with the administration's new plan, Enduring Welcome. It meets all of the marks that we asked for. Now, the challenges that remain include capacity for processing. So we want to see 2 other lily pads established so we can double or triple the capacity for processing Afghans, which means we can relocate more. It's a delicate balance though, because as folks who are involved in this can attest, we don't want to create a target list for the Taliban. We don't want to go too far and have them shut everything down, because the reality is they run the airport, they run Afghanistan right now. So we've got to operate within boundaries that don't sacrifice the hundreds of thousands to help 50 people.
And I've heard that from some folks directly here in the San Diego community. They're here under these different guidelines, but family members are stuck elsewhere. Is this going to solve any of those issues?
Sure. So the 3 categories that Enduring Welcome prioritizes for relocation are family reunification, number 1. State Department has a forthcoming portal that will be up in days or weeks that will allow for people who are here under humanitarian parole, so the folks that came in under Operation Allies Welcome, SIVs, American citizens, lawful permanent residents, anybody whose family is separated due to the non-combatant evacuation operation, they'll be able to go in there and get their folks into the queue if they're not otherwise eligible. This second category remains SIVs, and then the third category is the most vulnerable P1s and P2s. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all for coming out today. We really appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing what you throw up.